Mace Windu made it abundantly clear to Supreme Chancellor Palpatine in Attack of the Clones that the Jedi were peacekeepers, not soldiers. Yet the Jedi found themselves in command of the Grand Army of the Republic's clonetroopers. Many Jedi thought the Order should not participate in the Clone Wars, and some even refused to fight. All Jedi Order members received commissions from Supreme Chancellor Palpatine during the first month of the Clone Wars. Those who refused their commission initiated their Right of Denial. The Right of Denial was a custom that gave a Jedi the right to object to a Jedi Council directive. Invoking the right required that Jedi to surrender their lightsaber and lose their legal standing, remaining a Jedi in name only. But if the Jedi were truly just peacekeepers, why is the Republic's history full of conflicts where the Jedi served as military leaders? Today, Padawans and Acolytes, let's take a look at these conflicts and the Jedi's role as warriors in galactic history. All of these conflicts exist in the Legends universe, but over time, we're finding that more of these events are making their way into the current canon. Even though we will discuss both Legends and canon events in this video, keep in mind that none of these conflicts is absolutely excluded from the history of the galaxy as of the time of this recording. Let's start at the beginning with some Sith history. Known as purebloods, the Sith were a species native to the planet Moraband in the Outer Rim territories. The planet was known in ancient times as Korriban. These humanoids had red skin, distinct bone spurs, tentacles on their faces, and a strong connection to the dark side of the Force. They were a violent culture that saw war and sacrifice as essential to life. They created strong magics and complex rituals as a result of their affinity for the dark side. Additionally, they were able to produce powerful dark side artifacts thanks to their arcane alchemy. In Republic space, some of the more ambitious Jedi in the Order opened themselves up to the dark side of the Force. Discovering they could bend life itself, members of this sect inside the Order became known as Dark Jedi, and were persecuted for their beliefs and defiance of the Jedi Council. Expanding their numbers, they declared themselves free of the will of the Jedi Council and rebelled against the Order as a whole. The war between the Jedi and Dark Jedi lasted for 100 years. Concluding with the surviving Dark Jedi's surrender and exile from the Republic. This conflict, known as the 100-Year Darkness, is once again canon, mentioned in Issue 9 of the Star Wars comic book series, which claims that the Sith were created as a result of this conflict. These Dark Jedi, now known as the Exiles, traveled through hyperspace, arriving at Korriban, where they were shocked to discover the local Sith to be a Force-sensitive race. The Dark Jedi were astonished by the primitive species' dark knowledge, much of it brand new to them, and were particularly intrigued by their ability to channel dark side energy. Overpowered by the Dark Jedi's force powers and lightsabers, the Sith began to worship their new masters. The Dark Jedi were able to interbreed their Jedi blood with the Sith bloodlines through Sith alchemy. Over time, the Sith evolved from a race to a philosophy and religion. This ushered in the time of a powerful empire and the era known as the Golden Age of the Sith. In the Great Hyperspace War, also added back into canon, began in 5000 BBY and was the first encounter between the Republic and Sith Empire. Under the leadership of the Dark Lord of the Sith, Naga Sadow, the Sith invaded the Galactic Republic. The Sith were on the verge of destroying the Republic forces when internal power struggles allowed the Republic to drive them back. The Sith worlds were incorporated into the Republic, and the Jedi mistakenly believed the Sith religion and species were now extinct. In reality, the remaining Sith escaped to deep space to re-establish their civilization under Emperor Darth Vitiate. For just over a century, the galaxy experienced peace. Then, fallen Jedi Exar Kun and his apprentice Ulic Qel-Droma led the Massassi Sith in a series of deadly campaigns against the Republic that are known as the Great Sith War. Kun and his allies were stopped on Yavin 4. The Great Sith War was brought back into canon in the High Republic novel Light of the Jedi. However, the specific events of the war were not mentioned. This brings us to the Jedi Civil War. This conflict itself is still a Legends war, but its most famous Force user has been brought back into canon through several sources. This conflict began when the Outer Rim territories were attacked by the Mandalorians in 3976 BBY. Given that the conflict was far from the core worlds, the Republic was initially hesitant to respond. Republic forces were overrun as the Mandalorians advanced, and they requested the Jedi's assistance. When the Council refused, Revan and Malak led a group of Jedi who defied the Council and fought alongside the Republic against the Mandalorians. When they traveled to the unknown regions to look into what had provoked the Mandalorian invasion, they came across Darth Vitiat's Sith Empire and were corrupted by the dark side. The two disobeyed the Sith Emperor's orders, and after returning to the Republic, established their own Sith Empire, enlisting the aid of numerous Republic soldiers and Jedi. Turning back to the light, Revan destroyed his former apprentice, and infighting destroyed what remained of their Sith Empire. A few hundred years later, the Great Galactic War lasted for nearly 30 years. This war is still a Legends-only event as of the time of this video's production. The Sith Empire conquered roughly half of the galaxy while wreaking havoc on worlds from the Rim to the Core in retaliation for their loss in the Great Hyperspace War. Once the conflict had ended, the Jedi rebuilt their numbers on their homeworld of Tython, and a Cold War developed between the Sith and Republic. The Jedi-Sith War, all of which is canon, occurred 1,000 years before the Clone Wars and was the last war fought between the Jedi and Sith. The Old Republic was crumbling as the Jedi's Army of Light fought the Sith Brotherhood of Darkness throughout the galaxy. The Sith nearly succeeded in conquering the Republic, but they were defeated on Ruusan. Again, Sith infighting led to the downfall as the ambitious Sith Lords sought personal power over the good of their empire. The Jedi believed they had brought about the extinction of the Sith. However, a single Sith Lord, Darth Bane, survived, and he instituted the Sith Rule of Two and the Sith Grand Plan that would culminate in Darth Sidious exterminating the Jedi Order and taking control of the galaxy. With all of this conflict in the Jedi's past, it's difficult to understand why Mace Windu said the Jedi were not soldiers, and Qui-Gon Jinn informed Queen Amidala he could not fight a war. So why did the Jedi simply take up their lightsabers and step into a commanding role of the Republic's army in the Clone War? I think it comes down to who the conflict is against. The Jedi must always get involved against the Sith. Refusing to fight the Sith would be the same as joining them. They saw the Confederacy of Independent Systems as a puppet state for the Sith, as they were aware that the Sith had returned a decade earlier. They had no choice but to join this conflict. Looking back at this long list of wars we just covered, the only time the Jedi refused to aid the Republic was during the Mandalorian War, and even in their refusal, many Jedi disobeyed the Council and joined the fight. This led to another needless conflict with Revan and Malak that most likely could have been avoided if the Jedi Order had defended the Republic in the first place. So what do you think? Are the Jedi too rigid in their position that they are only keepers of the peace? Did they become too ingrained in their dogmatic ways? Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.